I'm Dylan Radigan. I've interviewed nearly every CEO and most world leaders during the past 25 years. And now I'm bootstrapping. I'm turning my attention to the new CEOs and the irrepressible entrepreneurs leading the next generation of innovation in the world. Welcome back to Tasty Live. I am Dylan Radigan. Time for another episode of Bootstrapping. Our guest today, Mark Landsberg, his company called Social Deviant. It's a social and digital commerce marketing agency that he says has all of the benefits of an agency and none of the liabilities of an agency. Mark, it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to meet you, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
Good. So obviously the liabilities of an agency is you have a fancy meeting with the big boss beforehand. You sign, you never see the big boss again, and you just have ambiguous billing for undefined services. Although not much point in doing too much a critique of the agency model. What are you doing that makes you different?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. First of all, Dylan, no one ever calls me the big boss, or even boss. I think I founded Social Deviant having a lot of experience, obviously, with big agencies. I've run several big global agencies. There were really three things that we were trying to do. One was, to your point, just be a lot more transparent. Number two is be a lot more collaborative with clients. Brands right now can do a lot of their own work, a lot of their own creative work, have a lot of their own ideas. And the third was just really introduce speed into the system. I think big agencies are just really slow. And I think brands demand speed. They demand transparency and collaboration. Those were really the three things that I thought all brands deserved.
And so can you give me an example of what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, for sure. So as an example, when we get a brief from a client, typically it takes, it would take a traditional agency weeks to be able to prepare the brief and respond back, even with an initial point of view. Whereas at Social Deviant, we believe speed is a system. So we'll get back to clients within 48 or 72 hours with a point of view and with a brief. We'll collaborate with our internal creative teams. We operate in weeks, not months. We'll have ideas in front of our clients, again, within a matter of 1 week or 2 weeks, not months. And we'll take their feedback all along the way. We believe in work in progress rather than the grand reveal. Our standard line, Dylan, is that we iterate to great. We just think that speed is the new black, and introducing speed as a system in our briefs, in our delivery, and the way we work with clients is really the next generation of what I think an agency should look like.
And then does your service include up to it including analytics? In other words, if I came to you, I said, well, show me, all of the women who have purchased a saucepan in the last 180 days, that are in, the greater Seattle area. In other words, is part of your work include basically the targeting or sizing of the marketplace?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I know for a fact that more men have bought saucepans than women in the last 30 days. Okay. One thing that we try to do, actually, Dylan, I should have been clear up front, even though our name is Social Deviant, we really are a full service integrated creative agency. So we'll do brand strategy, marketing strategy. We'll do all the creative development. We can do all the media planning. And then to your point, we'll do all the analytics and optimization. So at Social Deviant, we believe every dollar should be associated with a deliverable and with market impact. So to your point, there are no fees for general retainer or having the big boss show up. Everything is associated with a deliverable, and we measure absolutely everything. Our obsession is with driving impact for our clients and their brands. And so we try to measure the business objectives, the marketing objectives. In social media, it's really easy to just measure vanity, engagement metrics, likes and shares. But we go well beyond that to make sure we're driving true business impact.
And how do you measure that true business impact?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really case by case and campaign by campaign. Usually the ultimate metric would be sales. And so for any brand, what that may mean is driving a lower cost of customer acquisition. It may mean driving more efficient leads. It may mean better conversion of those leads along the funnel, mid-funnel, down funnel, and the purchase funnel. It really can mean any number of things. And so each campaign, each budget, we take a look at what the metrics of success are that ultimately leads to that transaction or to that sale. It could be a more efficient way to get someone to call a call center, to request information, to download an app. One thing we like to subscribe to, Dylan, is like preconditions to a sale. Whatever gets us closer to that ultimate sale are the things that we want to measure, manage, and then optimize around.
And when you say you collaborate on the creative, in other words, how much of the creative is creative in the traditional sense of an ad agency, and how much of the creative is interpretive A/B testing, which seems to be the sort of, and obviously you can do both. And this is not unique to you, but I just feel like the whole industry has become less, it's become less about the stroke of genius from a creative leader, whether it's in a company or at an agency, and more about structuring these experimental situations that come back with data based on which company slogan or which colors or which, all the sort of typical creative decisions feel like they get filtered much more through A/B testing now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, historically we've set up the dichotomy as it's either wildly creative and conceptual, or it's, tactical and A/B test. And we actually think at Social Deviant that's a little bit of an artificial distinction. It's always both. The first thing we do is make sure we've got a concept. We call them narrative containers. We've got to have a creative wrapper. There's got to be an idea driven by a really smart brief. Once we have that conceptual idea, then we get into A/B testing. Then we can find a number of ways to execute against that concept. How do we bring it to life? And we'll vary sometimes the tone, sometimes the image, sometimes the post copy, sometimes the target audience, sometimes the platforms. There are a number of things that we can A/B test against that concept. But one thing that's really important is we commingle conceptual development with then tactical execution, and we can test at each phase.
If you were to look, is there anything that stands out to you, either within the social channels? I mean, I know TikTok gets a lot of publicity right now, but is there any one particular channel that you feel is more effective for sales than another, for instance?
Yeah, I love that question. The reality is pretty much all social media right now and all content, I would say, is commerce enabled. Social e-commerce is a huge and growing trend. Almost every unit of content that you look at right now in any social platform, Instagram, Facebook, certainly LinkedIn, others, and increasingly TikTok, there's a click to buy or a click to look for more information. And so the platforms that enable social e-commerce and the delivery of content are increasingly transaction enabled, which also enables us to target, retarget, and collect more data. One thing we like to say, Dylan, is it's never content for content's sake. It's not just let's bang some stuff out in social media and hope we get a lot of likes and shares. We're always looking for changes in behavior that we can measure, making sure we've got the data to do that, and figuring out where possible there should be some commerce enablement around that unit of content.
But again, no distinction from one channel to the other, in your opinion.
Some are obviously more data and transaction oriented than others. LinkedIn by definition is a performance platform and clearly a little bit more business to business enabled than business to consumer enabled. But increasingly, the thing we like to say at Social Deviant is if one platform develops a tool that brands find really useful, it's not very long before all platforms have incorporated their version of that tool, whether it's commerce, transaction, data availability, or consumer transparency, privacy. And so there is this great, and all for the good, by the way, convergence to the mean on data availability, on transaction enablement, and on measurement and optimization.
My understanding is that Facebook changed their targeting system last year to try to make it theoretically more difficult to isolate an audience. Is that in fact the case, or is that an issue? Is that a factor at this moment?
Well, it's funny because all platforms, they're ultimately useful when you can target and when you can retarget. And back in the day, you had to put paid media in order to target. Even now in social media, like on Instagram, if it's just organic content, meaning there's not paid support, then you can't target. The only way you can target audiences is through paid media and by optimizing your search. And so all platforms basically play by those rules. Organic content is essentially going to reach your current audience. Paid enables you to target. Facebook, by the way, changes algorithms all the time, so it's really hard. Back in the day, you could pay to play, so you could identify audiences. You could aggregate audiences based on targeting and paid media. Once those audiences responded to your content or your offer, then you could create vertical lookalike pools and you could retarget against those and you could market to those audiences limitlessly. You paid for the first tranche of the first wave of content. The reality is algorithms are changing all the time, TikTok now. And so we have a dedicated team, Dylan, that's looking at every platform all the time. What are the algorithms? What's data availability? What are the privacy issues? What are the targeting and retargeting capabilities? And how do we make sure that we're making informed recommendations about platforms and content types based on, again, the business and marketing objectives, the category, and the audience needs?
But again, no distinction from TikTok to Instagram at this point.
Well, there certainly is. No, there certainly are distinctions. There are distinctions, and it really just depends on what your brand is looking for and what metrics of success you're looking for. But as I said, increasingly there's convergence. TikTok is changing a lot of their data transparency and algorithms for targeting all the time. We've got two folks that are literally almost full time just looking at the TikTok platform and its changes in both data transparency, privacy, and targeting.
And if you were to look at product type, in other words, it's theoretically easier to buy something online if you're not a customer. That would be a first-time buyer, I guess would be the way to say it, for something that costs $50 or $25 or even $100, as opposed to something that costs $500 or $1,000. Is there a price point where social commerce becomes less effective? Is there a ceiling?
Yeah, there probably. I think there are ceilings, but I do think that those thresholds are changing all the time because the platforms are getting more efficient. The transaction fees are becoming lower, especially as there's more scale and more volume, and as a result, those transaction fees and the enterprise platform costs get amortized over just a larger user base. And so the reality is, look right now, look at Grubhub or DoorDash. 3 years ago, you thought it's insane that you're going to order McDonald's delivered to your door. The whole order is $8 or $10. The fee is $5. It's half of your order. But guess what? People do it. And the more people are ordering DoorDash, McDonald's, the more those fees kind of stabilize a little bit, come down, and or they just get baked in the price. And that's your allowable cost to get that Big Mac and fries delivered to your door as opposed to picking it up. And so more and more people appreciate the ease, the convenience, the efficiency, and they're willing to pay those transaction fees. And as you said, rightly, those fees are coming down over time.
But again, my question goes more to, can you sell $1,000 cosmetic as just as easy as $100 cosmetic? In other words, does price point matter for social commerce?
You know what? I think increasingly it does not matter. I mean, look at Carvana. People are buying cars online. People are buying houses online. I think there's no sort of limit to the price. I think people now have full transparency. There are verifications and validation. There are many, many ways that you can validate, the efficacy of an item up or down. And so I think the answer is there really isn't anymore. Luxury goods, in fact, were exploded during COVID, as an example, when there were no stores available. We're doing some work with a fragrance company, and what was fascinating is you might think fragrances, which are usually worn out of the home for events, parties, going to work, and the like, you would think that they would have almost gone away during the time of COVID, when in fact they tripled in growth because I think a lot of women and men were actually interested in, it's still okay to smell good. I want to smell good. This is a small thing I'm going to do for myself. And that category tripled. And by the way, more importantly, Dylan, at the higher price points, at the $100 to $150 and above for 3-ounce bottles. And so it's completely counterintuitive, which means A, it's hard to predict the trends. B, people are really willing to pay at higher price points online. They increasingly trust social e-commerce. Look at the average basket on an Amazon order. And luxury items are in fact have exploded online.
Luxury item. Can you give me more examples of what you define as a luxury item?
Well, really any item that is 2 to 3 times what you would normally pay. So watches, I can buy a watch for $30, or I can buy a watch for $1 million. And I think luxury items are anything that would be 3 to 5 times the base price. So instead of buying a $25 or $30 watch, I'm buying a $350 or $500 watch. Same for fragrances. Instead of a $30 bottle, I'm buying a $150 to $300 bottle of fragrance. That affordable luxury price just keeps sliding up in almost every category. And you're watching people increasingly comfortable with those price trade-offs.
And then how big is your business? In other words, how many clients do you have, and how do you avoid how do you maintain good customer service, I guess, with your clients?
Yeah, it's the ultimate question. We're growing. We've almost doubled since COVID, which is fantastic. We've added a lot of new clients this year alone. In 2023, we've added 3 new clients, about to be 4 if we're lucky. Touch wood. And we're just in April. I think good customer service is really, it's a scale function based on 3 things. It's based on the structure, the processes, and then obviously the people that you've got. I think a lot of service organizations just rely on quality hires, and that's important, of course. But if we've got the right structure and if we've got the right processes and systems, then we can slot in really good people and train them to do it the social deviant way. And to answer your question more specifically, it requires a number of things: full transparency, templates and tools, weekly check-ins. We have budget trackers that enable our folks to check in on our clients to make sure we're delivering the goods on time and on budget. We've got internal processes for briefs. We've got monthly reviews with our clients on the work that we're doing. We're constantly truing up and being transparent with the work that we do. And we really try to train our folks on our system, on our approach, and on using those tools. And then obviously hiring great people that not only have a service orientation, but more importantly, are really smart business people, marketers second, really understand what it means to run and own a business and a P&L, be responsible stewards of our clients' budgets, and over communicate. You can never communicate enough. Follow up and follow through, be consistent and be reliable, are the basic, infrastructural elements of how social deviant approaches it.
And then do you find that you also get involved with the technical, like, do you also do are you doing site designs and development and app develop, all that kind of stuff, in addition to branding and, targeting and all that? Are you doing the whole thing?
Yeah. So as a full service agency, one thing that we've done is we've actually productized our service offerings. So we have about 18 different products/service offerings, each with a beginning, middle, and end, each with a price, and each with an associated set of deliverables. And that provides a level of transparency for our clients, which is great. And it also enables us to hire the right people and resource accordingly for each one of those deliverables. One thing we're also very clear about as a result of that, Dylan, is what we're good at, what we're not good at. We're not a technical shop, so we don't do site development, but we do all the site design. So we'll figure out in the grand scheme of, if these are all the asset types, if this is what a consumer experience looks like, online, offline, if there's an app, if there's a site, if there's social content, if there's a TV campaign, et cetera, we can architect that. We can do the campaign architecture. We can build a concept. We can produce all of the creative work, and then we can do site design. And we've got some partners for site development. It's the same for app development. We're not app dev company, but we'll do the design. We'll figure out the role that app should play in the overall consumer experience and in the brand architecture. And then we've got partners for the dev. And in many cases, our clients have a technology team. They've got an IT infrastructure. They often take on the development themselves. But we're doing the campaign, the brand, and the content architecture that supports the ultimate marketing ambition for the brand.
And do you have any sense of the overall health of the economy through what you're doing? Do you feel that, is there any, obviously you're very microeconomic, and also you may be affected by, you may be having a surge in client acquisition as a result of some particular, outperformance on your part. But I am curious whether you have a macro view of any kind, just based on the number of inbound calls or inquiries or budget sizing and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, for sure. We are a little bit of the canary in the coal mine. I think all agencies, anybody who works anywhere in the general direction of marketing is a little bit at the tip of the spear in terms of the economy. We feel the economy up or down. Absolutely. Obviously, COVID was really tricky as companies were consolidating, laying off people, cutting budgets, cutting marketing budgets. I liken 23 to sort of the year of COVID almost. Only we can go out and have a beer. It's a very difficult economic environment with interest rates and inflation. And we saw that actually, Dylan, beginning at June, like sort of middle of last year. I think a lot of brands and the economy started to slow down. I think people realized, wow, 23 might be a tricky year. We're going to start to consolidate now. So we saw a lot of budget consolidation, and we've seen that in Q4, and we've seen it continue into Q1 and into this year. I think for Social Deviant, we can be the beneficiaries of that. One, as I said, we take time and cost out of the system. We can be a full service integrated creative and marketing and brand agency for a lot of brands. If they consolidate their spend with us, even if they're spending 30% less than they normally would, by consolidating with us, they still get as much throughput and output as they might have done if they spread that across 3 or 4 agencies. So, our expectation is that we'll be fine. We're able to help brands succeed, even in a world of consolidation, lower budget. We are seeing consumer demand, continue in some key categories. And so brands are just being really thoughtful about how they spend their money, where they spend their money, making sure they get, impact for every dollar that they spend. They don't want, vague retained fees. They need throughput, output, and impact. And I think this is a huge advantage of working with Social Deviant.
Mark, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the time.
Really nice to meet you. I really appreciate you having me, and thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark Landsberg. Social Deviant's the business, Bootstrapping the segment, tastylive the network. We're back after this.